Alright, good evening, welcome back to In the Khud. This is 26 June 2023, 7:05 p.m. And firstly, I want you to check this out. G1 makes a noise, G2, G3, G4. And along with that, I want you to check just by pressing Windows G1, I get QI press over here. Okay, and once that is in place, I have to figure why it's making that noise. But once that is in place, all of my clicks and all of my strokes and everything are visible here, and this color is all customizable and everything. And over the weekend, why is it making that noise? Oh, it's my other auto hotkey scripts which are on. Let me shut these. So yesterday I bought yesterday only I bought the QI Press subscription for 3 years. Amazing software, must needed for like tutorials and stuff, because I've noticed that even in the very loose kind of workflow videos I've made on In the Khud, it is very helpful for somebody to follow along if they can see what buttons I'm pressing, like F or G or R or whatever. So that is amazing. And then with OBS, I want to have options, right? Because sometimes if I'm dealing more with the modifier stack, then I can be here. And if it is not the case, like if I'm modeling here, then G3 is good. Yeah, pretty nice, pretty good. And I don't want to waste a lot of time. We'll just get into the documentation for today. Today I woke up at 6:30, and this has been a trend lately that I've been waking up late and not at the Amrit Vela. So 10:25, feeling very fresh post the Amrit Vela part, which has not been happening at the Amrit Vela. There was a brief moment of complete peace and meditating in the self. Throughout the day I will just shut QI Press off. Throughout the day, I want to make a conscious effort of keeping attention on the self and not on the mind and the phenomenal world. While I was typing this, I was thinking about it, but then as the day continues, my attention naturally just goes into the world and the full-time job stuff and whatever it is that I'm working on. So I think that is it's like a training in process. The more I train my attention to be on the self, the easier it will get. But right now it's like all over the place. Not all over the place, it's like on the thing that I'm working on. But trying to keep it on the self as much as possible. Then having said that, here's today's chart. So I did code with Harry, React.js day 1, and I watched 3 tutorials and was just basic installing React and everything. So I installed Visual Studio Code, I installed npm modules, Node.js, installed a bunch of extensions that he talks about. And also the fact that you have an index.html. The only 2 folders you're going to work with is public and src. Public has your index.html, which just refers to your div. It gives a div ID called root, and then everything happens inside your src here, inside app.js. So this is what runs on your server, and then you can make more and more components here. Very exciting. Over the weekend, one thing that I saw a lot of is these videos where they showcase 3D websites with interactions in 3.js, and that's the kind of thing I want to do, like proper web development using 3.js, and combining that with my ongoing knowledge of Blender and 3D. It'll be so massive if I can make like 3D interactive experiences of websites, and that just in itself is so much fun. I don't even want to be making money out of it or anything like a proper web developer. If that something happens down the line, that's all right, but it's just so much fun. And there's also this application called Dora, which is a no code application. You can just use kind of like drag and drop stuff and animation keyframes and everything to make 3D websites, and that is great. That is amazing. I want to dive into it, but it is kind of like another Wix route where you're trying to steer away from code, and it's great for someone who doesn't want to code, doesn't like coding. But for me particularly, I actually enjoy code building and logic building and problem solving that way. So I'm going to take the longer but more proper route of going down the coding route and understanding everything from scratch as much as I possibly can. One thing of the charts is that the rain has begun. Yesterday was like day before was a full-fledged rain day, and it's been continuously raining since then. And this is usually what happens every single year, where there's like a brief amount of days where it's raining continuously, it doesn't stop at all, but then there is like a drought. I hope that drought doesn't come and it's like an on and off situation. But what happens is it gets difficult to go to the gym. Like I have to walk to the gym and then carry the umbrella, and it's a mess to go. So that's one thing. Other than that, I spent the day working on this this RAS animation static that I had made. One thing that I do want to document is something that I learned from my CG Boost sculpting course, and this is very effective. It's like when you have a plane with a displacement modifier on it, and I just want to make sure the things are all visible. तुझे कैसे पता न चला कि मैं तेनू प्यार कर दिया. Okay, so if you have a plane and on that plane you have a displacement modifier, okay, to that you can give a texture, and on texture if you click here you can add a clouds thing. That's very obvious. One amazing thing is inside your modifier properties here, instead of it'll be you normally on local, but if you switch it to object and like over here you add just a null, right, and to that null you give a frame divided by 1600 or whatever. When that null moves, the texture moves, and it feels like, if you see on the left side, it'll feel like the ocean is actually in motion, which is amazing, right? If I was to just, if you were to focus here, you'll feel like this is moving, and that's exactly what you want. You could also do a thing where you scale it up and scale it down, so that may look like a ripple situation. I was trying to do some other textures and everything as well, but yeah, this is one thing I wanted to cover, is that just by setting it up this way you can easily create some constant ripples, and if you put hashtag frame there'll be a constant flow. So the reason I'm working again on this project is there's like an animation that I want to make out of the static render, for which a lot of the time I was trying to spend again on this metal thing and wasn't looking right. So I modeled the cap once again, and I modeled the bottle once again with a different sort of reference this time around. I think the oil is shut, so oil is something that I have to kind of make again. Or maybe what I can do is I can just go in here. Now I've started working live over here. But yeah, this is something that has to be done. And if you wanted to cover like the edges, you could do an SX. I've kept QI press off when I need it. Anyway, yeah, the same principle I even apply to oil movement, because I wanted to have some movement on the oil, so it feels like there's some movement happening right on the top. And over here you can add a group, so it just isolates that particular group, so you give that wave effect on it, right? So if I was to play it, I've done the exact same thing, but because I've added a vertex group. And how you do it is you go into weight paint mode. Okay, let me just keep a QI press on. So from object you go into weight paint mode, and then you hold down alt and drag and drop it, drag from the top to the bottom here, so you get this kind of a gradient where it's most at the top and least at the bottom. And then it makes a vertex group called group over here, right? And in your modifier you just select that group, so then this is what will be affected by your texture here. And yeah, if you want to make it more intense, what you can do is you can play with the strength here. So if I was to increase this, oh my god, that grows very fast. So if you increase the strength, you will see that this is more intense now, kind of like a hurricane in the liquid situation. I'm gonna keep it subtle, kind of flowing that way, so that can happen. Is it like glitching? Yeah, it's running at a lower FPS. Anyway, so these are the little things that I have done today and wanted to document. Yeah, I have to figure the oil situation not looking the best, but yeah, that's where it is. As far as the full-time job is concerned, there are a few exciting things that I'm working on. One is, of course, if you see here, I had to go through the entire I had to go through the video by Pixelica, where he shows how to do a block out of a character and using the Rigify skeletal and understanding the anatomy, then design, like sculpt the characters that I want, then retopo the characters, and then get back to working on the full 3D animation that I was working on, but this time with not with the NLA but animation layers instead. Quite a process. Of course, once the character design and up until the retopology phase is something I have to figure. Post that, rigging is not, it's going to be like a breeze, because AutoRig Pro and Faceit we have two add-ons which will do everything for us. So rigging is not going to be a problem at all. Animation should be good. But yeah, I think there's a lot of resistance in getting to the point of starting animating. But that's just how it is. I can't really help it. So yeah, that's pretty much all that I had to document. There's one thing that I did today is, if you see my Windows 11, when I right click, I don't get that fancy new icon where there are only 2 or 3 functionalities, and then you do show more options, you get this thing. So for that I followed a YouTube video. I'm not gonna like do it, but this video by Pure Info Tech, right, it shows how you go into the regedit and make a new key inside this folder, and then call that key something very specific, and then double click here on this value, and then we leave it blank, and then restart the system, and whoa, you did just get a normal this thing. The reason I wanted this is because I wanted to go into any folder that I want. Let's say I go in here and I can open this with VS Code if I wanted to, so I would get all my files and everything over here, which is amazing. And another thing is, you can come in here and say file close folder, so that will close. Visual Studio Code is amazing. I have understood that before as well, but just reinforcing. That's it. Thank you so much for today's documentation, being here for today's documentation. I will catch you tomorrow. Peace.